Greetings, family. Welcome to the Grand Rising Collective. My name is Kyle Dixon, co-host, educator, and entrepreneur for 20 years. Grand Rising Collective's here is to cultivate greatness in ourselves and our community.
And my name is Kayode Bentley, co-host, educator, and entrepreneur for over 20 plus years. My contribution to Grand Rising Collective is to help cultivate that greatness in ourselves and the community through impactful discussions, seminars, and webinars with my co-host, Kyle Dixon.
Yes. Greetings, family. Welcome to another episode of the Grand Rising Collective podcast. I'm your co-host, Kyle Dixon, along with my co-host, Kayode Bentley, and we have some special guests for this discussion today. We have innovators, entrepreneurs, music aficionados, and professionals, Mr. Alvin Singh and Mr. Inza Bamba. Welcome, brothers.
Peace.
So we definitely got to give a shout out. So family, we're going to have an interesting discussion today. We wanted to bring these professional brothers on because we have some things we want to talk about as far as not just in the community, but in our professional lives. And these brothers have had a lot of experience in their professional careers, experiences, dealing with discrimination, dealing with adversity, but also having solutions, as we always talk about here on the Grand Rising Collective podcast. So again, don't be afraid to share, like, subscribe to our podcast. We have other episodes as well. But this discussion is going to be special because we have a lot to share and a lot to discuss that's really going to help us, we believe, move forward in how we deal with ourselves and how we deal with each other and how we can really be mindful of where we want to go in our careers and our lives and just how to navigate that. So without further ado, fellas, welcome. I'm gonna start with Brother Inza. Brother Inza, I know we talked before. Definitely, family, you can check out his previous episode we did with him about a year or so ago. That was really helpful about mastering your craft. And Inza, talking to us about, man, like going into that mastering, because that's where you and Alvin both I feel have a very strong foundation on doing that. But I want to start with you first. Like, how does that work for you as far as mastering your craft, that process?
Nice to meet you all. I'm so glad to be back here. I kept telling Kyle that I want to come back. I always like being with positive brothers, and it's always, you got to pay for it, you got to give. That's like at the essence of my being. It's like, if I can be of service, I already feel like I already won. So that's the way I start my day. And that's what I'm focusing more on. So yeah, mastering. I mean, like, I would say for me, failure, it's like failure it's been like the tool that has gotten me where I am today. Like, I'm not afraid of failing. I'm willing to, yes, you can be afraid at times. You can be anxious, you can be unsure because you haven't tried it yet. Or maybe perhaps no one has even done that yet. But just taking that chance, going for it, and then you fail. But I see it as like a learning opportunity. So then next time I'm not doing that same thing again. I'm coming in with a whole new approach. So a lot of failures, has, humbled me, has gotten me to define myself and to focus on, like, what do I really want? What do I want to say? How do I want to be seen? Do I want to be seen through the eye of other people? Or, do I want to define myself, leave a signature, something that, you can look back and be like, okay, you know what? It was hard. I grinded, but I squeezed everything out of it. I was afraid, I was happy, I won, I lost, but I can look back and go to bed knowing that, I gave it all, and that's been like my way of, defining mastery. It's always like being able to overcome some of the obstacles, that always are going to present themselves in your life. That's guaranteed. You're going to have obstacles, you're going to have no's, you're going to have naysayers, but it's having that joy, that, like we say in French, joie de vivre, it's like having that, like a kid, having that in you, waking up, no cynicism, just be like, you know what, I am going to make possible what was impossible, So for me, that's like, there's nothing more exciting, like when I spend a lot of time in sports. So when I watch Michael Jordan, I mean, or Kobe Bryant, or even LeBron James, you see the determination, like these people are coming in with this aggression and confidence, like belief in themselves. And not to say that they haven't lost, they've lost several times. And even now, Kobe faced the ultimate, loss. Him and his daughter. But you look back at his life and you're like, man, this brother achieved so much, and that mastery. I mean, that's basically, for me, that's why I go back, is like thinking of all the difficulties and the failures and how they kind of propel me forward into making better and better decisions. And I'm still learning. That's what I'm excited about.
Ooh, indeed. Brother Alvin, I know you got something to challenge.
No, Kyle, I'm a Bucks fan.
Yeah, you're right.
When he gave that analogy, I gotta go with it. I gotta add on. So,
yes.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, right, from Nigeria, played with the Milwaukee Bucks, a Midwest team, not a small market. When I first moved back from South Africa, I had to pick a team. It was the Warriors. And I was watching the game, and I just said, yeah, I'm going for the Warriors. And then they're, you bandwagon. And I said, all right, man, give me 2 months. I'm going to pick a team. Mm-hmm. And I picked the Bucks. And sure enough, I mean, people almost spit their drinks out when I told them, yeah, man, the Bucks is who to watch out. People, oh, yeah, right. And sure enough, they were the number one team that next year. Mm-hmm. Giannis won MVP, but they lost to the Raptors. The next year, Giannis won MVP, All-Star MVP, and they lost again to the Miami Heat. This last year, it wasn't the one before that. They go, and people was counting down when Giannis was shooting airball free throws. But that failure, people was counting down on them, 10, 9, 8, and then he'll shoot an air ball and they'll laugh at him. So he had failures all the way through that series, but then the last day he scores 50 points on the NBA playoff finals. And so what that kind of showed me was, and everybody kept saying, he shouldn't shoot. He should just stay on the inside. He should do this. But what I kind of liked about that was this sense of what I call non-prima donna. He made no excuse. He showed up, and he also motivated his team. He didn't say, the coach is bad. I done win 2 years in a row. Now I want to get on a big team. He actually took that challenge further, and it's actually more rewarding, I think, when you do that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's easy in the NBA to move to teams, and you can go on the Nets and all these super teams and everything. But it's a sense of that failure in front of everyone that didn't get him down. It actually propelled him to have the best that he could. So, I think, and that's, form of mastery is identifying what are your weaknesses and then really dig into that, because it's easy for everybody to tell you, you're good at this, you're good at that, you're a good writer, you're it's easy for you to tell yourself and everybody, but what is the one thing that you can improve on yourself, you know what I'm saying, on your own? And that's kind of how I actually kind of, to add on to that analogy.
That's some heavy stuff, Kyle. Excuse me. I had to catch my voice right there. But I completely agree. And although I'm not a guest, Alvin, you brought up a very good point, and so did you, Inza. I think one of the key things that we as men are forced to, go through is accountability. I think accountability is the way you start mastery, right? Taking accountability. I mean, that's the mark of a true leader. That's the mark of a true anything, a king, right? Being able, first realizing that, and I've learned this from a famous quote where it says, the road to success is through failure, right? So you have to go through the tunnel first to get to the light at the end of the tunnel. And part of that is being able to take ownership for the actions that you do, actions and their reactions. So piggybacking off of both of y'all, man, all I can say in terms of mastery is accountability. That's where it starts. And if you take accountability, that's where you begin to grow and you build up that strength to achieve whatever you want to achieve. So, yeah.
And if I may add, it does take a lot of humility to focus on accountability. Like a lot of people, don't even want to go that route. Like, I know people, and I'm not going to name names, like Kyle knows I don't do that, but I know people who, for them to show accountability is akin to showing weakness. That's like, they see it. They got to be, I don't know if it's the narcissism or whatever it is, but they got to be 100%. That's where they get their confidence. Like, snake oils, man, sells. It's like for me, I think it takes, I mean, you hear people say you gotta be the, the bigger man or the bigger woman or whatever. But I think you just gotta be the smarter person. Humility like grounds you, and then it like propels you. You start, having it's really important to be grounded. I always feel like accountability, you said it, it's really important, in any decisions that you're making, to be able to look back and be like, yeah, everyone is saying Alvin said, like, everyone has been, pumping you with all these, news, you're doing well, you're amazing, you're wonderful, but you don't really know, like, you gotta face yourself and be like accountable and look at yourself and be like, okay, am I afraid of being vulnerable? Right? Like, because everyone's got to be hard, everyone's got to be strong, everyone got to be, but the biggest strength is like to be like, okay, I see like I see some cracks in my armor over here, let me fix that before I get out there on the battlefield. So that takes a lot of accountability on yourself. Be like, okay, this thing, I should have fixed it a long time ago, but I haven't. And I keep like putting duct tapes on it, or acting like it ain't happening, repainting it. But you gotta go back and be like, okay, man, take this thing off, let me face it, let me fix it so I can move forward. So you're totally right on that. Accountability. I like that.
Thank you so much. And I also, before I take my apologies for this, one of the things as Grand Rising Collective is, as brothers, first of all, I'm impressed, I'm inspired by what we have here. 4 brothers coming together, intellectual brothers, which is against the norm that media is pushing, but thank God that that's changing. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to reach the community, right? And, get information to motivate, inspire the community in and of itself. So I want to ask this question towards us in the community as a culture, right? Because we're rich in our culture, thank God. Do you think we as a culture have a problem with what we just mentioned here, taking accountability, being humbled in order to be successful, in order to master what are our God-given rights, which is why we're struggling, because we're struggling in these areas? So, Kyle, if you don't mind, I'm posing this question to our guests. Do you think we as a culture have a problem with the traits that we're just mentioning right now in regards to humility and accountability in order to master?
That's a good one.
I would say yes, because like what Inza and Alvin had mentioned, like that, I think society already puts us in a negative light. So it's like adding fuel to the fire of our demise in our minds, in our conscious. We feel that way because it's like, well, if society's already beating upon me as a Black person, especially as a Black man, then why would I want to douse fire on myself? It's like, it seems counterproductive. I mean, am I making sense?
No, that's a good point, because I had a conversation with a brother and I was listening to him talk about him, his girlfriend, and how he's trying to be a friend and she's not. And he does all of these things, we went 25 minutes into him saying it, and then I just was like, what do you take accountable for? And his answer actually made me more upset. His answer was, and I mean, and then see if this is how y'all feel about it. His answer, I said, what do you take accountable for? She's asking you to do these things. You saying you complaining about her. What do you take accountability? He says, I take accountability for being a friend to someone who doesn't want to be a friend. I said, that's not accountability, man. It does not require a third person. The accountability is only what I do. You cannot say I take accountability for being friends to you for not being a friend to me. No, you're stepping away from accountability, right? So what you were saying, maybe in a cultural sense, is when someone is saying, are you doing everything you can? Are you, going to the library, brother, to go find information? Are you, sister, are you going to workshops? Are you doing everything you can? And how do we not take that person? Because what Kyle said, in so much in society, everything is personal. So then we got to shift that it's okay for me to say what I need to do without looking at it in the terms of what I couldn't do because of society. I couldn't do this because where I grew up. I couldn't do this because of the school. I couldn't. No. We know all of that. So what can you do? You know what I'm saying? If you're being a friend to her and she's not being, giving it back and reciprocating to you, then what can you do? Stop the whole, I keep trying. It's almost like the whole, like, yeah, I keep trying for the job, but they don't want to hire me. I keep, there's going to be these roadblocks. You remember, you know what I'm saying? There's people that's going to count down for you to fail. So actually, when we're in ourselves in our own lives like that, that's actually better. You know, so for him and his situation with him and his girl, that's the time to work on something that does not require the outside world. You know what I'm saying? Because it's nothing more embarrassing for a whole stadium. I'm using my boy again, to count down for your failure. You know, and that's what society's always going to do for us, is prove to you that you weren't ready for it. Prove to you that you weren't ready. So don't self-defeat yourself by making it seem, you know, I take accountable for doing something nice to people. Nah, you're supposed to do it already. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's kind of, you know, how do we pick that kind of sense of, and it's all good for us to do it. You know, let's look at cooking and men. We was talking about the role playing in the house. It's okay to learn how to cook as a man. You know, it's okay to do some of the things that you yourself would have to do for yourself anyway. You know?
Right.
You can't say, well, I always had my mom to cook, or I'm always working, so I prefer. And then you're trying to find, you know what I'm saying? That's like saying, I don't want to shoot the free throw, let the best shooter free. No, you got fouled. That's why they fouled you. Because they knew you couldn't make the shot. So, you know, so part of what you want to do is take it to the line and say, I would take on that challenge. So I'll lay my plane on that one right there.
That was deep. That was pretty good, man.
Ooh, man.
So, Inza, what you got to say on that in regards to us as a culture, man? Do you think we have a problem being human, you know, humble and taking accountability as a culture?
You know, I always try to, again, with humility, I try to like not generalize. You know, I know everybody's different. People got their own battles. You know, who knows, you know, how you grew up, you know, like some of the challenges you've had, maybe you were abused or whatever happened to you. So it makes you kind of like angry and already defensive, you know, when you get out there. But ideally, I think that, yes, you know, the deck, they already see you. People already assume that's who you're going to be, you know, and that's the way it is in America. I mean, I didn't experience that until you know, again, based on our last podcast, I talked about that, you know, experiencing all those behaviors that I hadn't like faced when I was living in the Ivory Coast. But despite that, like Alvin said, I mean, it's an opportunity, right? Like society may say certain things. Some people may assume that they're entitled to this, but I'm entitled to my mind, you know, to the kindness in my heart. I'm entitled to, you know, asking for help when I'm down, you know, and if people don't come through, I keep moving, you know, you keep trying to better yourself and knock on another door until you can knock on like 100 doors and then, you know, you give up. But if you waited to knock one more door, maybe that person would take you in and then your whole life changes. And then here you are making a difference and helping someone else. So yes, I get it that society has like, and TV, movie, you know, everything you see, you know, the media is a very powerful instrument. People take it lightly, but it is a very strong instrument that many governments have used, you know, to like brainwash people, and it can really affect your psyche. So I could see that. I could see a lot of young kids who, you know, because I used to teach, you know, at Bank Street College. Give it up for Bank Street. And I saw how, you know, how you were raised, the household that you lived in, whether you're Latinos, Latina, or, you know, African American, Black, African, you know, some of the stigma that existed, you know, and these children would come in with that already. And it was like spend the time to show them like, hey, despite what they say about you, you know, you are a unique human being. Like you have some gift, you know, and, you know, it's time to like discover that and bring that out. That's going to make you unique. Maybe that'll make you be successful on your own. And at the very least, you could be happy and be like, okay, I'm me. There's no one else like me, right? So yeah, so I agree. Society and the media are a powerful force. You can't run away from them. In a business world, you know, academia, film, entertainment, you know, obviously clearly in the criminal justice system, you're going to be facing with that, like really targeting you already But despite that, I feel like that's again an opportunity for us to sort of like not be a victim, but mostly be like a hero of your story. Yours, however long you're on this planet, like how can you be the star of your own movie? So people can come and be like, I want to see that movie. I want to see that movie Kyle is in. Let me Alvin, hey, let me go see that. I'm supposed to be like, oh yeah, they said that about you. And yes, she ended up in jail, and that's it. Done for you. I reject that. I think we gotta fight against fight the power.
So we as a culture have to, number one, look at the pressures that we experience as a culture in this country as an opportunity, yes. Basically, right? So this is the instructions that we're trying to give to our community, that don't buy into the negative stereotypes that the Western culture society tries to put at us. Instead, look at it as an opportunity to be able to take control of our lives, to know that we're given a gift to be successful. We can make this world, we can make our lives the way we want to make it out here, I guess, is what I would give as a tangible to our culture, right? To just take it as an opportunity. To don't look at it half glass full, basically.
And not only that, like, you are unique, right? They have yet to see what your power is. You know what I mean? Like, they're already saying like you can't do this and that. So you're coming in there like a ninja. This is an opportunity for you. You can be silent, don't say anything about what you're doing, take it all in, you know what I mean? Be cool on the side. They're like, oh man, this person doesn't even know what's going on, but you know everything, right? You keep your mouth. Then at least you come in the dark of the night, do your business, move out. They wake up in the morning, they're like, what just happened? I mean, that for me is like the best feeling. Like when they I forgot the word, but when they assume you can't do certain thing, and then you come in there and like surpass everything they had in mind. They're like, well, how is that even possible? I wasn't even expecting this. That's what you want. You don't want to come in there when they already know, or you come in there boasting, yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. No. You gotta like be quiet, be silent, come in there, soak it all in, hear what they're all saying. I mean, I listen. You don't have to respond. I know who I am. I know what I have in mind, like my father put in me and my mom. So they haven't seen that yet. So it's an opportunity for you to show that. So don't fit into their stories, write your own story.
And I think that ties into something like when our conversation we had, Kyle, with Alvin, where and as well, Inza, in terms of knowing what you say, knowledge of self. Right. And I think that's a key element, right? Because a lot of us in the community don't even know where we come from. The only history we have is what we've been programmed to believe. We're descendants from slaves. They don't even know we come from a line of kings and queens and the power of Egypt and, everything. And that's to Alvin's point, where he brought up in our last discussion a bunch of books that dealt rich with our culture. And I think that's what's so powerful, because once we realize, because that's what helped me, my dad raising me. I didn't buy into the doctrine, the indoctrination, because my dad gave me the book Stolen Legacy, and I was able to learn of what we created, and that helped me, deal with a lot of stuff. And I think Calvin was very instrumental in our last podcast on that, but he brought up books, and I think that's where that starts, where we have that insight. So
I wanted to ask Inza, let me ask you this: when you was in Ivory Coast, what did you see kind of the traditional barriers with African youth and older youth, right? Because when I was in South Africa, everybody that was running were all Mandela's friends. So they were all still right now 70, 60, 80, 90 years old. But yet the country's actual population was all youth. Right. And so there was a constant struggle with this whole, hey, this is our turn. You guys, you don't know what's going on. But yet these youth were vibrant. They were the ones that was speaking on issues that, that weren't being discussed. They were they weren't in this kind of honeymoon phase of like, man, it's better than under apartheid. No, they were like, they were actually like, we didn't live under apartheid. And so what did you see in Ivory Coast? Like a lot of traditional kind of, that they kind of struggle or not? Because Ivory Coast is majority Muslim,
half. I mean, I don't, oh man, I'm gonna get in trouble here. I will look it up and I should know, but at least, I mean, there's at least there's I wouldn't say it's majority Muslim, even though right now the ruling power is mostly Muslim, but it wasn't like that before. So and Islam has been like the religion of the merchants and the nomad people, traveling. So if you travel and you come for commerce, many people speak that language. That's this person is selling the spice. You're gonna have to communicate with them in that language or with her. So that's how many of the in the country speak some of the Malenke or Jula, which is mostly from the north language. So I wouldn't know. I mean, I don't want to. I'm gonna fact check that to see if it's a majority.
Well, let me ask you this.
But to answer your question,
Okay.
to answer your question, like was yes. I mean, I think similar to everything that you said, there's this tendency of those who came before to sort of like be like, hey, we saw worse. You guys don't know what you're talking about. Shut your mouth, wait for your turn. And there's a lot of corruption, as you know, in Africa. That's like the biggest issue. But the youth was definitely, that defiance is still going on in Mali. People are rebelling, people are speaking up, against threat. So I that I'm 100% certain is going to continue. It's that like times have changed. People are dealing with new things now, and there's new opportunities, but there's also challenges, that people are facing. Food shortage, people don't talk about that. The weather changing, messing up with irrigation and water shortage. There's some issues out there, and not everyone's gonna be an entertainer, a soccer player, or I mean I should say a football player, or you know what I mean? Like not everyone's gonna be like a big star on TV. So there's a tons of kids out there who need, opportunities, and many of them are asking, especially when you have all these interruptions in government because of political unrest, then that stops education, and people are like, hey, what are we gonna do now? So you have like little gangs that are starting left and right, trying like to snatch, food and try to eat. So those are the things that I remember when I was living there. I noticed that, that the youth were vibrant, still vibrant, and trying to make noise. Yes, you do have some issues where if you come from a certain family, that you're set up, you kind of like have that upward mobility for you. And then it's more difficult for someone else who came out of a village and a poor family to really break it in. It's kind of like that elitism, that I noticed existed. And I don't agree with that, be honest with you. I feel like there's, there are many kids that, and not everyone, like I said, not everyone's going to make it big and go to France and go to England and go play, but I've noticed that many people have come back and started giving, like those who made it out there came back and are helping out, the youth again. That movement is happening. I mean, it's a global thing, in my opinion. I don't think it's only in Africa, but you're right that the youth are still, speaking up.
Which then leads to the music here. Like, I just learned recently that Ike and Tina Turner was taken to court by the Black Panthers for their music, that it wasn't, and James Brown. That's why he made I'm Black and Proud, was because they pulled him up.
Wow.
It's a whole article out there that they actually took them and was saying that and it was outside the concerts and, almost extorting them.
Right.
Saying, why don't you do something to show what's getting the movement, right?
Right.
And
well, that's cool.
And do you guys think that our culture is unique in this sense? Because one part hip hop is freedom of expression. We got Ice Cube and Public Enemy, but now today, this drill music and lyrics being used, that's not art to me. Okay. But if it's freedom of expression, everybody can do it because the technology's there. Yeah. But when we popularize it and it's radio and they choose, it is not organically chose. Do the older people have a job or do we sound like the mad rappers? How do we do this? Because it's an epidemic to me,
Yeah.
So It's kind of like, with Brenda Fossey and Fela, like it was a lot. But is that sustainable is what I'm saying. Like, is that sustainable? How do we do it? As a cultural, how do we do that? Or are we wrong for it? Is it something that everybody else doesn't necessarily do themselves? Like,
I think I want to chime in on this one briefly, because y'all are definitely music professionals. But how I see it is that once something that was once a tool that we use to fight our oppression is now depressing us. We have allowed the music industries and companies to turn something that was actually a gift into a curse.
Right.
And they are using that against us for our own demise. Now, is that all the artists? No, we're not saying that, because we know that there's, like we say, the J. Cole's, the Kendrick Lamar's, you know what I'm saying, the FKA Twigs. These are artists. These are artists, people who are doing music, and you can tell that they're putting purpose and putting deeper intent behind it. They may, some of the stuff they may say still problematic, but you can tell there's a care and attention to it. And it's not to say that drill music doesn't have care and attention, but it's what is the intention of it. Because if you're trying to talk about something that's violent, to say, hey, this is something maybe we need to think about and change, versus I'm being violent because I want you to get at me, because if you get at me, then I'm gonna shoot you down dead. And I think it goes back to like what Inza was saying, what you were mentioning, Kayode, that cultural value, and I would mention too, that cultural value is like, okay, when we ask these questions, we're asking these questions against our values and beliefs that are dictated by our cultures, right? So it's like, okay, is this good compared to what? Is this good compared to my lifestyle, my community's lifestyle, my cultural lifestyle, or is this because I like it and I feel good and I don't care what nobody else thinks? Well, that's so far.
Right.
I believe that, but that's my short opinion.
It's funny, Alvin put a trill and drill music epidemic. This is, it's just like there's good in everything, right? Just like there's bad in everything. But I also believe, yes, just be real, right? Just call it what it is, right? And I don't know why we have this. I don't know why we don't make that connection, right? And I don't want to be a pessimist, because I'm not. I'm a half glass full type dude. But to add to what Alvin's question was that was posed to us, and your point, Kyle, in regards to the trill and drill music, my humble and honest opinion or belief is, first of all, I don't understand what they're saying in this trill and drill music. I'm just going. Come on, English is English, whatever. We all have our dialect, but I firmly believe, first of all, we got to look at, in my opinion, who's in charge of the distribution of this music and the production, right? I think we can, that pretty much answers most of the questions right there, right? Are we in charge of the music? Are we the producers of the music? Are we the ones distributing this music? Or is this some other culture with their ulterior motive or whatever their agenda is producing the music? So if we look at that in and of itself, I think that answers the question right there. I don't think anybody's, like for example, what they say in regards to, the only people who are going to deliver black people out of their situation are black people themselves. Not to say that we can't use help from other cultures, but if we expect to really be free, the only people that's going to free ourselves is us. The slave is not going to free, the master's not going to free the slave, because what's his advantage, right? What does he get out of slaving free labor that he was getting? So those who are in charge of the music, right, who's putting this music out here, which is what you brought up, Kyle, which is to our self-destruction, what are they going to benefit if they actually allow us to produce the music that we used to produce with the KRS-Ones, the rock hymns, right? That was uplifting us. We already seen what they did. So I think in terms of this freedom of speech and the whole trill music being new generation and all that other stuff, to some extent, yeah, it's a freedom of expression, great. But ultimately, I don't think it's to our benefit. I think it's to our demise. And I was just having a conversation with one of my colleagues at the club who's into, music and stuff like that, where he was like, and this was amazing. Now, this is coming from him. I never even thought of this. You know how rock music, they were saying when you play rock music backwards, it has like this demonic type Association and stuff like that. He was telling me that if you really listen to the trill music out here today, if you really listen to it, it kind of sounds similar to music, the rock music they're playing backwards. So it's kind of like this hidden message, ulterior message, or this programming that's taking place with our generation, with those to be, to cause our self-destruction. When he said that to me, I said, I never thought of it that way. I never connected the two.
Yeah,
So
I can see how that could go, but I never thought about it like that. Yeah, I can see that though.
You know what?
If you think about it too, real quick, Enzo, if you think about it real quick, when Lil Wayne came in, that for me, what I noticed, and I could be wrong, family, but what I noticed is with that rock, that not that I would say when I say rock and roll, family, I'm talking about rock and roll in the current state it is. We started rock and roll, right? Black, you know, Robert Johnson. We started that. So I want to preface that first. But the rock and roll image that we know of today, that to me came on with that Lil Wayne, that early like 2006, 2005, 2006. You know, you start seeing the jackets and the way people was wearing certain things. So I see that kind of influence. But I mean, Enzo, I'm sorry.
No, sorry for cutting you off. I don't have like I gotta check out that article, so I don't know much about it. But when it comes to what the music that I'm hearing today, I try to go back to the source, right? So a lot of it, when I hear it, there's like a rhythm in the north of the Ivory Coast, and it's like come from the village, from these people that are called the Senufos, and they have this panther mask, the original panther. You know, people don't know about that, but when I hear that rhythm, the way they do it is literally I think someone went to Africa and grabbed it and is bringing it over here and putting their stuff on it. So when I hear that is straight from these people, they're the panther people, right? And they're called the Giniwe. We call them the Giniwe, and the rhythm is sick. It is literally, you know, trap music. I mean, so for me, but the sad thing about it is, like, I joke about it, it's not trap music, it's trapped music for the way they do it here. You guys are being trapped because, you know what I mean? Like, for me, the way I hear it, I'm like, I'm hearing totally different thing. I know the source. I know where that's coming from. And the spirit and the energy behind it, those masks don't come in for nothing. They come in for celebration. If someone has passed away, they come. If there's an unrest in a village, they'll come and have some dance, and people offer, people give. So we need to go back to, in my opinion, I'm not trying to be like spiritual or bigger than the world or whatever, but I feel like I feel like you can still make money. I feel like you can still make money. And that's why I get a little crazy when I hear the Black Panther stuff, because I'm like, there's an original Panther who's real. There's like a real Panther, and they have their stories, right? And you gotta be careful to let Hollywood take that also, right? So we should be like telling we have superheroes that are here, you know, and I feel like when I hear the music, I'm like, that's like, you should. I mean, I'll send you some links. You can check it out. It's
absolutely
beautiful. This is beautiful music, and it's like they basically put the super bass on top of it, put the snares and the kick. You know, they got their kick also. It's just, listen, man, it's the same music. Sometimes it's sped up, sometimes it's slowed down. But so for me, when I hear it, when I used to hear even Future, when I would hear Future, I'm like, man, I know this rhythm already. I grew up with this thing as a kid. I used to hear this thing a long time ago. You know, I was born in the 70s, you know, mid 70s. So I knew this thing long ago. So I'm being presented the same thing that I grew up with. And it's, you know, listen, whatever works for people, they gotta make money. But I feel like we could still make money and still, you know what I mean, like take our source material and then like educate people, like, hey, this is where this is really coming from, right? Yeah. This is where it's coming from. This is what we're doing. Like, give purpose to everything you're doing, so it's more impactful. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's the part that's a little unfortunate, but it's been going on for so long. Like any style of music being taken. Like I came to the United States and I saw Back to the Future. Yeah. And you know, the first one when he's playing the guitar solo at the end with the band, and and Chuck Berry and all that.
Yeah.
I grew up, right, thinking, I mean, that could be the programming, like how they completely brainwashed me. I thought there's like a bunch of white dudes that were doing that. Like I was thinking that, I was like, oh wow, that's their thing, you know? And then in Happy Days. And it wasn't until later someone told me that, hey, that's not true. This is music that came from African American, like from Africa. This is an African thing. And so it gave me a lot more pride. And I think if you look at it that way, that same phenomenon is happening now, right? With any other style that's happening. So the question, Kayode, that you had is like, what's the machine that's behind it? And what kind of money is involved? Like, how are they giving a few millions to some of the artists, but what are they making? Like, I always ask that question, like, for them to pay you 30 million, you gotta believe they gotta be seeing some profit and be like, hey, you can make maybe 3 or 4 times more than that, right? So those are the questions, and that's like, we're going into territories that I don't have the skills to touch yet. So I can look at it. I'll just say that and mute myself for a second and be like, I'm gonna focus on my path here and see what I can do to educate some other people. We'll leave it like that, you know.
I gotta say, that's wise. That is definitely wise. If you don't know the content, don't say anything on it.
Yeah,
but to that point,
YouTube.
But Inza, let me say this. To that point, man, I want to say this. Like, dang, man, I'm glad you brought that up, Inza.
Hey.
I remember before we had technology today, Cal, you know about this as well. I think we talked about this. Before we had technology today, and this ties into one of our questions for you, Inza, discrimination on the job, right? So back in the day, before we had technology, we always felt like there was some animosity towards us. Like the other cultures was discriminated against us, and we never knew why, right? And then whenever we brought it up in certain circles, certain contexts, whatever the case would be, it was the counter to that argument was, oh, that's just your imagination. Oh, you know what I mean? Oh, that doesn't have, that's just what you, that's just that other person, whatever the case would be. Until we grew as a civilization, until technology came out. Now in this book called Black Tax, I talk about this a lot with Kyle, the black tax. Now, before when we were going to get a bank loan, we were getting charged higher rates than anybody. We bring, oh, that's just your man. Oh, that's not how it is. That's just that bank. Housing zones, right? Zoning law. Oh, right. Redlining. Oh, that's not how it is. That's not what. Oh, your blacks just don't take care of your property. You know what I mean? That's why it's this way, because we could just car loan, whatever the case would be. Until now, with technology today. Now we realize it's systemic racism. Now we realize it's legislation that was passed. Now there's some weight behind all the stuff we were talking about. Jane Elliott does a great job in regards to talking about the discrimination we face just because of the color of our skin. So I'm saying all this to say, yeah, even though you don't have as much information on the topic in regards to the trill music and the distribution and stuff like that, that's not to say what you feel and what you experience isn't valid. And that there is some truth behind what you say. You should have data and facts and statistics to back it up. Cal knows I talk about that all the time. But I think that's something that carries enough weight for it to be looked into in regards to looking into what music we're listening to that's coming from our culture, but ultimately is designed to entrap us and keep us disenfranchised and to keep us ignorant and to keep us fighting amongst ourselves, destroying whatever progress we could make as a group and as a culture. So I had to add that to you, Inza. Don't ever be like, nah, that's granted, but there's validity in regards to.
No, you're so right. I mean, it's like discrimination in the workplace. A lot of times, again, it's you don't want to say nothing because you got bills to pay. Maybe you don't have like another option, you know what I mean? Like, oh, maybe they make you feel like, oh, the person didn't know, right? They didn't know, they're not educated about it. So you're making a big deal out of it. They're not even thinking about that, right? So they make it as like your problem. Like, this is not happening. You imagining this, and like you said, it's not real. It's people really understand. But but these things eat at you, you go home, you come back the next day. I mean, I can't say name, but I know people who have told me stuff that have happened, like recently, and it's like, wow, that's still going on. And it made them, rethink their career, which is a big thing, because you went to school, you got your degrees, you got all these loans, and you got this job that you wanted. And now you got to deal with this whole other thing that was not part of the dream. That was not the thing. You got the job now. So what do you do? I mean, I work hard, you work hard, you paid your dues, right? In the system, all those years. And now you have to deal with this new thing, which they're making you feel like it's your problem. And so then you start questioning yourself, am I selling? Am I selling out? Why don't I speak up? If I speak up, how will it be perceived? Will people be like, oh yeah, you just creating some drama or rocking the boat, so maybe you're getting your paychecks, you're living in a luxury building, and you got all these amenities, so you're feeling good, you feel like, hey man, I made it now. But then you're questioning yourself, man, I should be speaking up, because this is not right. This continues to happen, so we need to make a change on it. But I feel like it's I mean, I don't know. It's a really tough thing, discrimination in the workplace. But I mean, that's tough. I mean, because you see it so much, right? Like you have the gatekeepers and you face it. But I think for me, I've been fortunate, it's gonna happen, and you have to decide, like, maybe, especially today, we have the abilities to start your own company and to even use social media for some musicians, to really push themselves, and artists to get gigs or YouTube platforms, or to monetize. So there's all these other options that didn't exist before. But there's also, if you work for a corporate company, it's a lot more, right? You got that protection, you got the healthcare, you got all those benefits that they're offering, and all that, puts a pressure on you. It makes you want to, like, I got a family to feed, I got people to take care of that are counting on me. Maybe you could go to HR and talk to them a little bit. Maybe they'll whisper something. But if it's the culture that's at that facility work, then you have the option. The only option is to either walk, and get something else, because you don't want to start a scene and then they start blacklisting you, and you can't find any work anywhere. Now, ideally, it would be great if you had, like, your own people that would, like, back you up and be like, okay, we're going to do business with you now, so that you feel like, okay, there are other options. I don't have to depend on one place only. So those are tough questions. I think it ends up being like a personal, unless you have, like, a platform where you can talk about it and many people are behind you, like Twitter, and they all come in and start a trend, then it scares the company to actually do the right thing. But quietly, now it would be great also if you had, like, more minorities also working in that facility, then you can all hang up. But most of the time there's few, in between, like one or two, and that's not enough to make noise, right? So you have to quietly decide to move on and to find something better for yourself, right?
And so you made man, there's so many levels of what he said, Kyle. There's so many levels of what Inza said. Oh man. So
I'm doing the best I can, man. I'm doing the best I can.
You're doing great. Just do what you do. You're doing great, Inza, because just know it's designed that way. It's designed in that structure to keep us fragmented. It's designed in that culture to make sure there's not a long group enough to change. So that's what it is. And I'm coming from someone who spent over 20 years in corporate. I know what the game is, right? So you mentioned a couple of things, right? So there are options that we have. There's YouTube, there's these social media platforms. We can generate supplemental income and things of that nature. But see, here's the problem. We're in an educational system where we're not taught those things. If you notice on news feeds, they're talking about what should be taught in school is financial management, credit, right? All these fundamental things. business development, entrepreneurship, how to write a business plan, how to come up with, the different doing business ads and things of this nature. So this is the game that's played as like the red herring or the bait and switch, right? Where you have all these options, YouTube, ways to generate this supplemental income, but it's like a situation, I think, Kyle, we talked about this, where, you have a pencil and the design of the pencil is a writing tool. But if growing up and being born, you were never showed what this tool is used for, it can sit right in front of your face. You need to, put your notes down on paper, but you don't know this is the actual tool to do it. So we have all these options available in front of us, but we don't know how to effectively utilize it to give us that kind of freedom and leverage to make this world a better place. You brought up a whole bunch of levels, man. Enza, fantastic. HR, right? I had to learn in corporate, HR isn't for the employee. HR is to protect the employer, and that's the company, right? So I think the message that we want to give to our audience, our subscribers, the community, is to focus on, how can I say, knowledge of self, which is where it starts, and entrepreneurship, right? The importance of networking, the importance of us having these discussions like we're having here in Grand Rising Collective. Do more of these. And I struggle, Kyle already know, I struggle with just calling my brother every week just to keep the communication going, because this is how we have to deprogram the indoctrination that we were taught that contributed to our separation. Because we think, this whole independent woman thing, this whole us as a culture, you could do more with a fist. You can make more of an impact with a fist than you can with one finger. And I think that's the kind of rationale we need to develop as a culture, realizing that we're more powerful as a group, as a unit, than individual. Because as an individual, this is where we end up staying. And 20 years later, we're going to have another George Floyd. 20 years later, another civil rights.
I love it.
Not 20 years later, tomorrow.
I love it. Who's behind the scene? Who are the people with the headphones on? Who are the people who are in the tech area who are making some of the decisions? There's not many of us there. And you go there, you don't see many of us, and that's changing. And I'm definitely happy to be behind supporting our Black sisters who are finally making an impact. Like I wanted to say that, it's important. Like the more they're elevated, the more they bring us on board. It is like that fist that you're talking about. She always felt like when she would call me that I would understand what she's talking about, and that gave her. And then that gave her confidence to be even better when she walked in the boardroom with all these other men that were in there. And I was proud when she would do well. I felt like, man, I did well, and it was so it's that fist that you're talking about. And that's what we need. We need more of that. I feel like now in 2022, we need more of those examples to be highlighted. And they are there. I feel like those examples are there. Unfortunately, people don't talk about them. And I think the more we mention those individuals, I would love to have her be part of this podcast one day because of everything that she's achieved and how she's in touch with the communities and really genuine human being. And she obviously deals with someone like me, but she also deals with like the players, multimillionaires, and in between. So it's that gap, again, not being a talent, but being behind the scene and making the decision. That's really huge. And I'm proud of it. And I'll talk about the project that I just did now. Again, I was picked. This was a directorial debut for this lady and powerful human being, and she brought me on as a composer for an event. So we need more sorry about that, but we have sisters and that are doing it big and starting now, and we just need to be, I think it's a beautiful time. We need to be behind them and supporting them and really encouraging them. When someone is whispering stuff in their ears, be like, you know what, I believe in you, go for what you want to do, and you're gonna, and then they're breaking walls, and people haven't heard it yet, but it is happening. I'm really, it's an exciting time. I can say that.
Thank you. It's okay. Yeah.
Indeed. No. Thank you for sharing that, because, like you said, these sisters who are making headway in these industries, and they're not getting their just due, and it's like, it's not a threat to any one of us. It's a celebration.
Yes.
they're professionals, we're professionals. So if she's bringing me on or bringing us on or bringing you on, that's just making her up in her profile, and that's upping your profile because you're upping her profile. Service, we're servicing each other. She's doing me a favor because just as much as she's a professional, I'm a professional, and she sees how I can enhance her work through my work.
Beautiful.
And she enhances my work because she was able to be in those positions to give me or others an opportunity, and I think that's what we're missing.
That's it, man. That's it. Like I feel like if we can multiply that, if that can be multiplied, you will see all the subject that we're talking about today. You'll see it all start to it maybe won't go away, but it will start to dissolve and be almost like a little bit in the back. It won't be in the front, and you'll have more successful stories, right? It's like a force multiplier. Like she came to me, then maybe I can grab someone else, then he or she can grab someone else, and we really start an army like that. Because I think the time is now, because there are no one's gonna come save you if no one's gonna come, and those people, there are some people who are looking after their own, and they're not thinking about you like that. Again, they will gaslight you and make you feel like you were saying, Kayode, that the discrimination, it may be implicit or not. They may whisper a few things here and there, but ultimately, when I sit down and talk to our own people who understand my background, it's a beautiful thing, because culturally I know what they're talking about. I understand what they want, and we actually can push each other up. Like, hey, we gotta push the envelope. Let's not go with the cheap, easy stuff that they want to do, and because it's not elevating the creation, and if you're not elevating your creativity, you feel like it's like not watering a plant. It's gonna not have the sunlight. You want to keep being better and upgrading, and that's why I like that. I like when she comes to me, she's like, hey, I need this, boom, 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 I need this, we're gonna have this concept, we're gonna do this and do this and do that. Can you get that to me? And I'm like, I hear you. Let's go. And that is wonderful, because there are times when I would meet some of the clients who would tell me all kind of visions, and I just don't understand what they're saying. They don't know how to talk to me in a way that, someone be like, give me something yellow, or something that makes me feel yellow. It is difficult to give you that 100%, because I may not know culturally what yellow meant to you, right?
Yes.
To me may mean something else, and then you end up doing the job and you don't deliver at your highest, and then that ends up being like a strike against you for like, oh, you didn't have the ability to do this. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's important to sit with the person, make sure they can walk within your shoes and you can walk in theirs. That humility, that empathy, and then you start you really see eye to eye and magic happens. I've seen that so many times, and it's a beautiful thing, and it makes you feel good, man. Like, it really takes care of all the little issues that have happened, and you can really wake up in the morning and be like, let's go, we got bigger things to do today, right? That's like the energy that I want, that I want to cultivate more.